You're sitting in a meeting when someone talks over you. Your opinion is dismissed. The room moves on as if you never spoke. We've all been there, that moment when you realize you're not commanding the respect you deserve. The solution isn't speaking louder or demanding attention. 3 psychological triggers determine whether others respect you instantly, and none require saying a word. Research published in Advances in Motivation Science confirms that respect isn't just about status or wealth, it's about specific behavioral norms. A case study by psychologist David Dunning reveals that humans are wired to respect those who project competence and goodwill, even when they don't consciously believe it. In other words, people don't just choose to respect you, they're psychologically compelled to, based on how you present yourself. And that's exactly what these 3 triggers are designed to do. Master these triggers, and watch as the same people who once ignored you suddenly hang on your every movement. If you want more psychological hacks that give you an instant edge in life, make sure to subscribe now. I break down powerful tactics that most people never even notice. Number 1. The power of silence. How strategic pauses command authority. Imagine watching 2 people in conversation. One responds instantly to every question, words tumbling out nervously. The other takes a deliberate pause before speaking. Who appears more confident? I bet you instantly recognize the second person as the one in control. That's no coincidence, it's psychology at work. Most people have an instinctive fear of silence. When conversation stops, their anxiety kicks in, and they rush to fill that empty space with words, any words, just to escape the discomfort. But this anxious chatter broadcasts insecurity. Every time you nervously fill a silence, you're signaling to everyone around you that you lack control and confidence in social situations. Here's where the paradox emerges. The more you speak without purpose, the less weight your words carry. Your constant stream of chatter becomes white noise, easily dismissed by listeners. The person who commands true respect is often the one who speaks less but with more impact. They understand that silence isn't something to be feared. It's a powerful tool to be wielded. This brings us to what psychologists call the discomfort principle. When confronted with silence, people experience a peculiar psychological pressure. This pressure isn't imagined. It's a genuine discomfort that compels them to fill the void. But here's the fascinating part. The person who remains silent in these moments is unconsciously perceived as having greater authority and control. Your silence creates a vacuum that others feel compelled to fill, and in doing so, they cede conversational power to you. Think about how your brain responds to different speakers. Someone who talks continuously becomes background noise. Your attention wanders, you check your phone, your mind drifts. But when someone who rarely speaks finally opens their mouth after a calculated pause, you lean in. Your focus sharpens. Your brain treats their words as significant simply because they've created scarcity around their speech. This psychological lever has been pulled by skilled negotiators and leaders throughout history. Take Steve Jobs, who would often employ devastatingly effective silences during product negotiations or when faced with challenging questions. These pauses weren't accidents. They were strategic weapons that disarmed opponents and established dominance without a single word. The good news is that you don't need to be a tech billionaire to harness this power. There's a simple technique that can transform how others perceive you. The 2-second pause. When someone asks you a question, instead of rushing to answer, simply count to 2 in your head before responding. This brief delay might feel uncomfortable at first, but it sends a powerful message. You are thoughtful, deliberate, and in complete control of the conversation. This 2-second technique works because it shifts the entire energy dynamic of an interaction. While others are frantically filling silences, you're creating space that others fill with their own anxiety and anticipation. As they wait for your response, their respect for you grows. They begin to value your words more highly simply because you've made them wait for them. Try this in your next meeting. When asked a question, pause for those 2 seconds. you'll immediately notice how the room's attention crystallizes around you. People who were half listening suddenly focus. Their expectations for your response elevate, all because you understood something they didn't. That silence isn't weakness, it's power. This strategic use of pauses explains why certain people command instant respect without saying much. They've mastered the counterintuitive truth that respect comes not from filling space with words, but from creating space with silence. They force others to actively engage rather than passively listen, establishing themselves as the gravitational center of any conversation. This is just one of the hidden psychological triggers that separate the respected from the ignored. If you're finding this valuable, hit that subscribe button. I've got even more coming your way. Number 2. Strategic eye contact, the visual dominance ratio. While you've mastered the power of silence, there's another silent language at play when commanding respect: your eyes. There's a scientific reason why certain people can lock eyes with you and instantly make you feel either completely at ease or unnervingly intimidated. This isn't random. It's a precisely calibrated signal that your brain processes before you're even consciously aware of it. Most people fall into one of two problematic patterns. They either make too little eye contact, glancing away constantly, appearing shifty and uncertain, or they overcompensate with an intense, unbroken stare that feels aggressive and threatening. Both approaches undermine respect before you've said a word. What's fascinating is that the exact balance that signals confidence without aggression is surprisingly precise and backed by research most people have never encountered. Scientists have identified what they call the visual dominance ratio, a measurable pattern of eye contact that separates those at the top of social hierarchies from everyone else. This isn't subjective. It's a mathematical ratio that your brain subconsciously calculates when determining someone's status. Here's where it gets specific. Research shows that dominant individuals maintain eye contact for 50 to 60% of the time when they're speaking, but 80% of the time when they're listening. This precise pattern creates a powerful psychological effect. It signals that you're confident enough to monitor the other person's reactions while speaking, yet focused and engaged when they respond. The pattern subconsciously communicates authority without crossing into aggression. But it's not just about duration. How you break eye contact matters just as much. Looking down signals submission and uncertainty, a vestige of our evolutionary past when exposing the vulnerable neck area indicated surrender. In contrast, breaking eye contact by briefly looking to the side projects thoughtfulness and control. This subtle distinction dramatically changes how others perceive your confidence level. The evolutionary explanation for why proper eye contact triggers respect is straightforward. It signals fearlessness. Throughout human history, maintaining appropriate eye contact demonstrated security in your social position. You weren't afraid of challenge or scrutiny. This deep programming still operates today, which is why we instinctively respect those who can hold our gaze with the right balance of confidence and connection. Here's a practical action tip. When someone is speaking to you, lock eyes and occasionally nod to show engagement. You're aiming for that 80% listening eye contact that powerful people naturally maintain. When it's your turn to speak, hold their gaze slightly longer than feels comfortable. That 50 to 60% speaking eye contact ratio. This subtle adjustment will make others feel your presence and respond with increased respect. The most powerful aspect of this technique is that it works even with intimidating people. By maintaining the visual dominance ratio that signals confidence without aggression, you communicate at a primal level that you're their equal. The beauty is that most people have never consciously analyzed their eye contact patterns, giving you an immediate advantage in any interaction. Number 3. Controlled body language, the high-status movement patterns. Beyond the eyes lies another battlefield where respect is won or lost before a single word is spoken. While everyone else broadcasts their anxiety through rapid, reactive movements, true power moves differently. The psychological impact of controlled movement is so profound that changing just this one pattern can transform how others respond to you within seconds. Watch people in any social gathering, and you'll notice an immediate distinction. Most individuals constantly fidget, shift their weight, touch their face, or adjust their clothing, unconsciously signaling discomfort and uncertainty. Then there are those rare few who remain perfectly composed, moving only with clear purpose and intention. These are the individuals who naturally command attention and respect. This difference isn't coincidence or personality, it's strategy. Research confirms that high-status individuals exhibit distinct movement patterns that signal dominance through what psychologists call economy of movement. This principle is simple yet profound. The less unnecessary motion you make, the more powerful you appear. Think of it as energy conservation at its most primal level. When you eliminate fidgeting, nervous gestures, and reactive movements, you immediately elevate how others perceive your status. What makes this technique so effective is that it taps directly into our evolutionary psychology. In nature, predators conserve energy, moving only when necessary, while prey species display constant nervous movement, always ready to flee. When you adopt controlled stillness, you're signaling at a subconscious level that you're the predator, not the prey in social situations. This controlled slowness signals something powerful. You own your time and space. When you slow down your movements, gestures, and even your breathing, you communicate that you're calm, collected, and in complete control of your environment. Others instinctively recognize and respect this non-verbal declaration of dominance. Taking up physical space is another critical component of high-status body language. Dominant individuals stand tall with shoulders back, naturally expanding their presence. This doesn't mean aggressive posturing or intimidation. Rather, it's about claiming the space you rightfully occupy instead of trying to make yourself small. When combined with deliberate slowness, this expanded posture creates an immediate perception of authority. The distinction between reactive and proactive movement further separates those who command respect from those who seek it. Reactive movement responds to external triggers, flinching at loud noises, turning toward every new voice, or constantly adjusting to accommodate others. Proactive movement comes from internal decisions, moving only when you choose to, maintaining composure regardless of environmental stimuli. This single shift from reactive to proactive movement patterns can transform your presence in any room. To implement this technique immediately, try what I call the stillness test. For your next social interaction, commit to eliminating all unnecessary movements. Don't fidget, touch your face, adjust your clothing, or shift your weight. Move only when there's purpose behind the movement. You'll immediately notice people responding differently, paying closer attention when you speak, interrupting you less, and showing subtle signs of increased respect. Remember that controlled body language doesn't mean becoming rigid or unnatural. The goal is purposeful movement, using physical motion strategically rather than reactively. When you do move, do so with intention and at a slightly slower pace than feels natural. This deliberate approach to physical presence creates a powerful visual signal that you're someone who deserves attention and respect. Conclusion: what we've explored today isn't just theory. It's practical psychology that can transform how people respond to you. When you combine these three triggers, strategic silence, precise eye contact patterns, and controlled movement, you create a presence that naturally commands respect without demanding it. The power to change how people treat you lies entirely in your hands. Will you continue to be overlooked, or will you apply these evidence-based techniques in your very next interaction? The difference could be life-changing. Mastering these triggers will change the way people treat you forever. If you want to keep unlocking elite-level psychology to dominate any social situation, subscribe now. The next video is going to take things even deeper.